Hey Google, what's YahClick?
Here is some information about Cries Unheard, the Donna YahClick story. An imprisoned Colorado woman must tell her teenage son why she...
Stop! So Google has no idea what YahClick, but we kind of have something. Hi guys, it's Rufaro here, back again with the podcast, and I'm joined by...
Farai, the guy from the blog.
Ed usually goes first. Like, what's happening
cool
today?
Cool again,
huh?
Cool, not cool.
The level of disrespect is criminal. This is Ed, coming to you live from videos and podcasts. Yeah,
Always from social media.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about YahClick. So YahClick is essentially a satellite internet provider, right?
Yeah. So
here in Zimbabwe, most of us for our home internet, we're used to having tel one. So where they come, they set up a modem. Sometimes, like I know in our area, we didn't have telco before, and the telco guys literally came and they were digging their trenches, laying their fiber cables up until they came to our house and they set up the internet and stuff. But then there's now this other side of internet connection where you're not necessarily tied to your location, because if you're not at home, you're disconnected, unless if you're in town where there are the hotspots and stuff. So this is where satellite internet comes in that you can set up, a mobile van. So for example, journalists like us, like Friday the other day, he was writing an article about YahClick, yes, and he was saying that like at events, it's usually tricky, like you've always been there, like thinking that there's gonna be internet and then there's no internet, and then you rely on mobile connection and then that bails on you. But imagine if you had a van that had a satellite dish on it and it was receiving internet from outer space. So that's essentially how I think satellite internet works. Of course, it's a bit more complex, and Farai, our resident satellite internet expert, will help us understand it a little bit more.
I'm under no pressure at all, but fire away in terms of questions there.
So the cool part about it is the mobility that comes through it. What we've been experiencing with internet providers in Zim is most of it has been terrestrial internet, which, as Rufaro was alluding to us, it's your fiber, it's your ADSL. Yeah. It's actually a physical link that's connecting your house or your business to the local exchange of that service provider. The satellite service now brings in a bit of a mobility. It allows you to set up internet connections in remote places, in places where it might take time for you to get a terrestrial internet service, or it might actually be much more expensive because you're on a farm. Like for 10 acres there's no one else but you, so it will be very expensive for you to just get a dedicated link to your farm when probably all you want to do is just catch up on some WhatsApp or just browse some news sites and the like. It's a cool service, but we're not too sure how it's priced, man. I mean, at the end of the day, Chelete speaks now.
Okay, so just I really hope these guys will price it way below the other providers. That's what I'm just crossing my fingers for.
I can certainly tell you it will not be priced way below the other providers.
Define way below.
I can tell you, I'm pretty willing to bet it won't be priced below, not even way below. I'm willing to bet it will be higher.
So why would that be the case? Is it that it's expensive for them or what? Like
I think it's the technology. VSAT has always been known to be expensive. It's always been known to be an expensive technology. But like Ed alluded to, the pricing structures have not been set. So at the launch event we went to, they kind of spoke about the pricing they had set before, and let me give you a sneak peek and maybe an answer to Rose as to why I think it won't be why it won't be lower than the guys we're used to Tel 1. And so for $33 you were going to get 5 gig. For Tel 1 for $25 I think you get
30
gig.
You get 30 gig.
Yeah.
So I think it's the technology. I think maybe another factor is that the satellite that's actually beaming this internet to Zimbabwe is fairly new. It's they launched it. It's called AY3. YahThree.
YahThree.
Yeah. So it's fairly new. So I'm assuming these guys are still collecting, like they're still like recovering their money on that as well. But the satellite internet is just more expensive than the normal internet channels we're used to. So if you're thinking along the lines of price, this might not be the one for you. But if you're like in a remote area, I don't want to say anything definitely because they haven't given us that final pricing structure.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing, at least, or what I saw from that event was, if you're in like a remote area and you can't get internet, this is your only option, and it's a decent option depending on what you get to do. Because as we know, 5G is not much. But I mean, if you're like an older farmer and whatnot, might be enough.
Yeah, in terms of pricing as well, I mean, as you were saying, the technology might be probably the biggest reason why it is expensive. But also, it will be unfair to like compare it with fiber or ADSL.
Yeah.
Because I mean, definitely that will be cheaper. It's a technology that's been there for a while, and it's been perfected up to a point where it now costs less to have it.
Yeah.
These guys launched a satellite into space. That's a lot of money. So it is going to be expensive, and we could compare it to other VSAT providers locally. I'm not too sure of VSAT prices locally, but the trend with VSAT has always been that it's one of the more expensive forms of internet that one could get.
Yeah.
They do bring about the convenience of internet in remote locations. I still remember in my high school in Dombushara, we actually had VSAT. We didn't have any terrestrial forms of internet, and I have to say it was also facing challenges of being much slower than terrestrial forms of internet. So that's also a factor to put into place. Like it would, you would really need to have internet for you to go for it. Otherwise, it kind of feels like the cost to benefit ratio is just.
Well, in terms of speed, what they claimed at least was up to 25 megabytes per second, exactly. Megabytes, I'm not sure which one is exactly. Megabit, if you're talking speed, right? Yeah, so they promised up to 25 megabits, and for the lowest package, I think they were saying around 3 MB, so it's decent.
Yeah, it's alright.
It's alright. I don't think if it lives up to that standard, because always promotional material is always positive, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Since you are in the know, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Would you consider YahClick?
If I was in Dombushara, like this guy said, and I needed to do something like urgently, and I needed the internet urgently, I would. But in Harare, no, I wouldn't. So
these guys, in short, you're saying they are actually targeting people that are actually outside, maybe the metropolitan towns, or the towns, maybe.
For them, they're saying they're targeting everyone, really. They're saying we're targeting everyone. The rural connectivity is a benefit. They're just touting, or at least they're saying you can also get us in these places where you normally wouldn't get the competitors. But they're saying to them, this is viable even in Harare.
Okay.
Which I guess they have to say because they're selling a product, but yeah, I don't really see how it's viable.
Okay, so here is the thing. I used to teach in the rural areas, and these people, the schools actually, because we cannot really start talking about the internet when we haven't even spoke about electricity. Rural electrification is way, way, way far below. So maybe a very few households, because maybe there are some people who would actually want their parents connected, and they might connect them. Yeah. Okay, fine, we'll discount those. But maybe the other bigger market would be the schools. So my question is, you are saying it's a bit pricey? That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, me being a rural teacher, I've witnessed many headmasters and many like school heads trying to like squeeze the tight budget that they have to actually make sure that the students have like basics like examination papers. Just those basics. So now here comes a solution to what they actually want. They really want internet, but it's so expensive. At the end, the remote areas they are actually targeting might not actually, we don't want to, I'm speculating on this one. Let me make that clear. I'm speculating. It might actually not really afford it. So that's why I went back to the price. Did they ever tell you that they might actually consider like reducing the prices or making them affordable to the people they are actually targeting, the remote?
The launch event was 2 weeks ago, so forgive me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure they said they've also got like custom packages where they can tailor something to you. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be cheap enough for the demographic that we're speaking about.
Okay.
So I think they do find themselves in a tricky place where I don't see, personally at least, I don't see where they fit in urban areas. And in rural areas where I think they fit, I think they're pricing themselves out of the reach of many people. So it's tricky. It's tricky. I don't really see where they fit right now, apart from maybe enterprises or whatever, or like large farms at least. People who've actually got the dough to do this. So not entirely sure where they'll end up.
So like going through some of their promo material, like I was noticing that they have this package where they can give a sort of metro Wi-Fi service of sorts, something similar to the public Wi-Fis that are available in the city, but on a much larger scale. So I would think that probably would be their best bet if they had to jump into this market. Probably market that to those mining places that are outside of town, that are very far away from their competitors in terms of service providers. Have something like that put in place. Those guys can afford it. They'll be able to set it up and pay for it, and probably might be a convenient tool to them than trying to fight the battle of network in a remote area, trying to fight a service provider to reach to them and offer them a solution that can only benefit someone who's in the office, and that's it. So I think probably that metro Wi-Fi system might be, I don't know what they were exactly calling it. I think, they're saying YahClick Wi-Fi solutions. YahClick Enterprise Wi-Fi solutions. So I think those are really cool for like remote sites that are enterprising and involved in business. They could really benefit from such a system.
I think, maybe we've been talking for like 40 minutes and we haven't like talked about how this works practically, because I'm sure you're hearing satellite internet and you're thinking, what will this setup be? So just to go back to that, when you buy this, when you sign up for YahClick, what you're getting is a modem like you would with Zoll, like you would with Tel1, and you're also getting a dish like you would with DSTV. So that dish is what's actually getting that signal from, and I'm doing hand gestures and you can't see them. But that dish is actually what gets to connect with the satellites they've launched that in space. So essentially think DSTV but for internet. And they will actually be, Utande will actually be partnering with DSTV for installation, or at least they'll be using the same installers as DSTV.
Actually, do you remember the internet cafes, the ones we had? Maybe now we go back.
They're still there. Like, I mean, public Wi-Fi is sort of taken over, but cafes are still there.
Yeah, so actually that's what I was going to say. Public Wi-Fi sort of, and for those small business owners, the internet cafes, maybe YahClick might actually enable those small business owners, the ones that will open internet cafes, maybe growth points, small towns, etc. So that's a plus for them.
And hopefully if the
CIC.
Yes.
Community Information
Centers.
Center.
Yes. Considering they don't beat them to it, but
Yeah.
it's also a proposition for them that they could throw in. But I'm thinking this is a fantastic service that's most probably going to be slowed down by price. People are going to be weighing their options, looking at what they already have, and asking if this is a more viable solution. I mean, you have Zol and Tel1 fighting over, hey, we use fiber because, well, it's immune to weather and the like, as compared to ADSL, it's faster and all that.
Yeah.
And then you have these guys, YahClick, who are bringing a satellite service, and we all know what happens to DSTV when it's raining. We get some E36s and Mawan. So it's got a lot to prove. If people are to decide to jump on board, they're gonna have to go through a lot of scrutiny. And
another thing is, maybe on a positive note, because we've just been so skeptical, we've been doubting the entire podcast whether they will actually take off well. Another good thing they have is the YahSat, or at least YahClick, the service itself. They've got what they call an unlimited free zone. Yeah, it's called an unlimited free zone. So essentially it's like night owl and night browsing for Taiwan. And so essentially you're going to be getting free internet from 1 a.m.
to 6 a.m.
to 6 a.m. I know those are crazy hours, but if you're one of those guys who just works through the night, you could get the 5 gig for 33 thing and just burn the oil when it's free.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's a better proposition than
the 11 to 5.
The 11 to 5 or the... Is it 10 for Zol? 10 to 5 as well.
No, Zol, it's 11.
No, it's 10. Night owl.
Oh.
It's 10.
Clearly someone tries to say
I don't know. I guess one of us is wrong.
We'll check.
Yeah. But maybe that could work if you're one of those experimental type guys. You want to see how satellite internet works, and you get the $33 package, or at least what was going to be the $33 package, because like we said, the prices have not been finalized, and you work throughout the night. But I mean, that's already a compromise there. But just so you know, this night owl.
Did you say $33 for 5 gig? Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that was provisional pricing. Let's hit that home, guys. That was provisional pricing.
Someone's
haven't
thinking.
settled on that because of what's been happening with the economy.
Yeah.
So there is no pricing right now. If you want the YahClick right now, you can't. They just take your number and they'll give you codes when they finally settled on pricing. But I mean, the fact that was their starting point, it's a bit alarming. I know, Rose, that's how I felt as well. But yeah, $33, 5 gig, that was the initial position. And with the way the rates have been moving, you're assuming that it might be more. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak definitively because people are going to listen to this and say, you got double YahClick or something like that. I don't want to be the guy who does that to YahClick and Utande and YahSat. Let's give them the chance to price. Maybe they'll price it down. And but it's worry.
Are you sure it was not $3.30?
I am positive.
Okay.
Let me check in my material if I had another one, man. That's the only one they gave us. Yeah, that's the only one they gave us, and then they made sure they would mention that these were interim prices and they were revising everything.
I hope that they are, because in my head the quick math is $33, right? Tell one you pay $32 and you get 60 gig. That's 12 times the amount that you would get. So it's of course the other 30 gig is the night browsing thing, but it's
it's 60 gigs not coming from a satellite, I guess. But I mean, whether that means more or I don't know. But like I said, I think they're between a rock and a hard place, especially in Zimbabwe where people don't have that much disposable income, and internet I think is considered by most to be part of that. So it's a tricky place to be in.
So to kind of round it off with what you just said, are people ready for satellite internet? Like we're also speaking about, the rural areas and electricity, and it's kind of speaking to we are kind of not there yet to be adopting such things. It will only be available for the large corporations like Ed was saying, who have these farms or these mines, and maybe you already have solar power station there in your own farm and you can generate your own electricity. But for the ordinary person who has, a stand in Shapao, they can't just have internet from a satellite because they probably don't have electricity there.
Well, I think, are we ready is always a weird question, because I think the base answer would be no. But I mean, if you give people a service, for those in the rural areas that do have access to electricity, I'm sure you give people a service, eventually they're going to learn their service. Because before we speak of electrification, after we speak of electrification, we also speak of do the guys in these areas know how to use computers? Do they have utility for internet and that kind of thing? All these are barriers, but that doesn't mean that technology shouldn't go there. So are we ready? I don't want to stick to solidly no, but it's a tough market to get into for these for these guys. And are we ready is always evolving. Like my kids are squad. Next thing you know, people have computers, people start using these things. It's not like you were born knowing how to use these things. It was easier to access. Or maybe you weren't, But I remember for me when I started using the internet, I literally remember the first site I read on the internet. I don't remember what year it was, but I went to Super Strikers because I was a fan of those comics and just binge read a bunch of them, and that's all I did. But now we do so many other things, so it's just a learning curve.
Are we ready? I wish I knew an answer to that one because satellite internet has been there for a while, and it has had its market, and basically its market has been remote places where your traditional internet can't get to. Breaking into the normal internet user now who already has all these other options, we're yet to see. Probably they're gonna be restructuring their packages. So it's asking people to go through all these other choices that they already have, and in the end, it's a preference thing. You will find some early adopters who are like, let's just check it out and see what it happens. Hopefully their packages have some extras in there that will entice people to kind of maybe have it as their backup internet or something. But yeah, it's a very interesting proposition they have there. I think the people who are most going to be chuffed about this are enterprises that are in remote areas. It's going to be a fantastic solution for them. That is if they don't have other options out there as well.
Yeah, so this has been it, guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and share your thoughts about YahClick, satellite internet, what you think the space could be, your thoughts and stuff like that. This has been me, Rufaro. I'll catch you in the next podcast.
Alright, I'll catch you on the blog. Yeah, on the blog.
Well, everyone's not sure where they'll be next time, but I'm sure I'll be in the videos and in the podcast. I'm Ed.
And I'm Rose.
Where will we catch you, Rose?
On the insights page.
Cool.